Hey everyone, welcome back to another Faction Spotlight with me, Doogie, and Tom. Hi Tom.
Well, hello.
That is the sound of Tom. Right, so we are going to do this is a biggie, this one, because not only is it our first ancient faction that we're covering, but it's probably everyone's favorite ancient faction as well, right?
I mean, it definitely was my favorite for the longest time until I got the War of the Ancients supplement and got to read about the Torvalis, but we'll talk about them another time.
Yeah, no Tervalis chat this time, or Carishiak, or Walkers of Sigma, whatever. Right? This is a
Right.
shadow spotlight, so we'll be
That's
concentrating on the
right.
shadows. So what do you know about the shadows, or shall I start
Well,
with what I know? You go.
well, I mean, I'll start with their background and all that. They're one of the oldest races in all of Babylon 5. I think if you, according to the supplements, the only ones that are actually older than them would be Lorien's people and the Triad.
Hmm.
So they're like among the oldest of the old. Unlike the Vorlons, they did not become beings of energy, so that's why you get to see their little physical forms in the show. And their ships are organic, completely bioengineered. So they are very much an almost eldritch horror in space, especially when you look at the shadow cruisers there on screen. They believe in evolution through chaos, and they send their minions out throughout the galaxy to periodically stir things up and
But
help
once
the
every
younger
thousand
races.
years.
Yeah, every 1,000 years or so, which for them, I guess, is like what, every other week in their mind. Um,
Well, so I always find this is a plot convenience whenever you have some sort of like ancient immortal race. They're kind of like, oh, 1,000 years is but a blink in the eye for us. I'm kind of like, I always think like, no, it's still the same amount of linear time. They'd probably get really bored.
well, the one that must be why they sleep. Yeah, they've already
True.
rewatched all there could be on Shadow Netflix at this point. So, they say, forget it, I'm taking a nap.
So every 1,000 years, they just wake up to gather new media to watch for the next 1,000 years.
Pretty much.
A good system, Netflix. Think about it. Right. So yeah, I think and of course anyone who's watched TV show will know this faction incredibly well. They are more or less the main protagonist. Let's say that. Just
Antagonists, you mean?
antagonist. Well, yes, antagonist. That's the one.
I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective. I mean, if you believe in
Oh,
them.
yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe. Although I absolutely hate that trope of when people take like what is clearly an antagonist in anything and then be like, oh, but from their point of view, maybe they're not so bad. And it's like, nah,
From my point of view, the Vorlons are evil.
yeah. Well, anyway, so they show up. The visual faction name is the Shadow Association in Babylon 5 Wars, which I find quite interesting because I don't think there's any reference to that in the show. And all I could
No?
think of was Mr. Mordens, who's one of their agents, keeps
Yes.
talking about his associates. And I started to wonder, did AOG just kind of take that idea? and because they love their suffixes to factions. I talked about
They
this
do.
in the HEAC video. And they were like, yeah, it's an association, really, full of associates. And like, is that what happened?
I feel like that's what they did because I'd
Yeah.
never seen Association listed by their name at all until I was on Fiery Void and I was looking for the shadows and I'm like, Shadow Association. Hmm. Like, is this some sort of fraternal order, like a Moose Lodge or something? And they
Yeah. I
get
mean,
together and have fish fries?
I don't mind because I love all these different suffixes. I mean, the Vorlons are just the Vorlon Empire. How boring's that? So, no,
Well,
I like it.
but it's orderly.
Well, yes, it is atypically orderly. Yes. Right. Let's talk about actual Fiery Void though and how they play. And I think like an overall comment from me is because in the show their ships are incredibly powerful and they basically just wipe the floor with anything that's not also an ancient faction
Right.
in it. But as with other ancient factions in Fiery Void, you still have to have a good game. You can't just have a faction that shows up and always wins because that's just not any fun.
Right. And you have to be careful with how much you bring because one of the things you need to remember is, if you're going by equal points, a 10,000 point single shadow ship has to, if it's taking on the equivalent of younger race ships, I mean, what that 10,000 point shadow vessel could potentially be facing off against five warlock class destroyers,
Yes.
and that's 10 heavy particle cannons. Even the shadows would struggle with that.
Yeah, so I think in the sort of, because this is the first ancient video, it's worth doing kind of like an overview of just how differently ancient factions play, which I shall now try to do. And one of them's actually, you will always be outnumbered. And in Babylon 5 Wars and in Fiery Void, that is always a disadvantage because of the way electronic warfare works. You only have a set amount to do against a set number of targets, and the more you use offensively, the less defense you have. So if there's more enemy targets, you're using more offensively, and your defenses suffers as a result. Breathe. So they're always up against that sort of natural disadvantage to it. But
Right. And in my experience, from a gameplay perspective, the white stars are like the perfect counter to a ship to the shadows in a lot of ways, which makes sense.
yeah,
But because they swarm and they're powerful in and of themselves, they're pretty potent against a shadow ship. You can't really focus on one of them because they're
I'd
small.
agree with that against the cruisers. And as we get into the sub ships, we will sort of maybe point out why. I think the smaller shadow ships don't suffer as much against white stars.
No,
That's just my opinion. But so where they do have those natural disadvantages, and they're not ancient factions are never really balanced against younger factions. You can play it and you can actually have a really good game, but you kind of need to know where the lay of the land is with these. They do get a lot of other inherent advantages just from being so old, so ancient. So a few of these, I'll just sort of point out as quickly as I can. One, we were talking about it before I hit record, advanced armor. So this is a sort of a natural ability of basically the ship in every system. Its armor is able to ignore disruptive effects like stun beams, stuff that would cause like criticals normally or
like
power off
disruptors,
systems.
things like that.
Yeah, reduce armor. Like generally speaking, those are all ignored unless it's another ancient faction that is using that type of weapon. Uh, the other advantage they have over younger races is they can ignore things like the Minbari jammer, Abai gravitic shields. I think all shields except EM shields, which
Yes.
which to be fair the White Star does have, but it doesn't have its jammer effect, and the jammer on the White Star is so strong because it's so maneuverable.
Right.
So they just ignore those things again, unless operated by another ancient faction. What else have they got that's quite handy?
Well, they've also got their self repair, which is something all ancient ships seem to have.
Yes, yes. Although the Shadows self repair systems kind of it's not that good.
No, it's not. It's pretty minimal.
I mean, it's not that good in terms of repairing health. Although to be fair, their ships, and again we'll see, they've got an interesting structure, and they don't actually have that much health. But it is, it is quite good at clearing critical effects.
Yeah.
So
And when you got the pilot, that makes a big difference.
yeah, well, so I don't think they can clear from the pilot. The pilot can't be repaired, and the sort of
Oh,
temporary stuff. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Because the self repair will never remove a temporary critical effect. It'll only remove permanent ones. So all that kind of stuff that only lasts one turn, the self repair system, because it takes a whole turn to do it, it just kind of skips those
oh,
ones.
that makes sense.
Because by
Yeah.
the time it repaired it, it would already have cleared. You see.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we've got self repair. Anything else?
Well, as far as universally ancient, no, but there's some specific shadow systems
Yeah,
on
I
there.
mean, I guess the general thing is like they tend to like their stats are just better, so they're going to have a lot of EW. They're going to usually be pretty good at maneuvering. A lot of them will have a ton of health or a ton of damage mitigation, and I think we will see a lot of that with the shadows. So,
Oh,
right.
definitely.
Any other quick words on what it is to be an ancient, Tom? Or shall we just get into the ships?
Well, I mean, one of the things that's really cool with them too is I know you mentioned the advanced armor, but one of the things I'd like to mention with that is one of the big things about advanced armor is against specific weapon types, they don't have certain disadvantages. I know you
Oh,
mentioned that
right,
with
right, yeah, yeah.
like the disruption, but at the same time, speaking as an Orieni player, I can tell you that the matter weapons that the Orieni use, which normally ignore armor, actually hit. They actually still apply the armor in this case. Now it's at a diminished level, but even so, that's
Yeah,
a
it's
big
it's 2 points
difference.
less. So in a Shadow
Right.
Cruiser, it would go from 6 to 4 instead of being completely ignored. And yeah, that's a huge advantage. Plasma weapons don't have damage against them. They
Ballistics, the armor counts as two higher, so
Yeah, and
poorly
against
aimed players would struggle.
flash weapons, the armor's doubled.
Yeah,
So there is a lot of advantages actually. Yeah, good point because I didn't really cover them. Cool. Let's move on to the ships though.
yeah.
And what I done because normally we kind of like plod through from biggest to smallest, but I actually wanted to do it a different way. I've got the contemporary shadow vessels in this sort of section here.
Okay.
And it maybe makes sense to start with the cruiser, which is the
Yeah.
absolutely iconic vessel from the TV show, and we see it slicing this and slicing that. Um,
Speaking of slicing, let's talk about the weapon there.
the slicer
This,
boom, yeah.
that's right, the molecular slicer. This thing is potent. We were talking a little bit about armor earlier and advanced armor at
Mm.
that, but the molecular slicer beam can ignore advanced armor. There's only two types of armor in the game that it cannot ignore, and one of which is operated by the Vorlons, which shouldn't be too surprising, the adaptive armor, and the other is operated by a faction not currently in the game, and that is the Carishiak and their hardened advanced armor, which that's another animal unto itself. But
Yeah,
this thing can core, when it's at full charge, it can core just about anything.
uh, yes, because let's look at it. Because its damage is when it's fully charged, is 42 to 196. Uh, and actually, the point I want to make is this is its only weapon, right?
Yeah,
Because this vortex sort of, don't worry about that. Right? It's actually a flavor weapon. So like in the
right.
tabletop game, it could disrupt jump points. We don't really have the mechanics for that. So it's just
Yeah.
there for flavor, or indeed to turn off for eight extra power.
Which extra power is not as useful for the shadows as it is for other races.
No, you can't boost your engines.
No.
I think is the main thing, and turning that off. I'm in the firing phase, so I can't. But turning that off, 8 power is not on the cruiser at least going to get you any extra EW. So yeah, to be
Right.
honest, that doesn't really do much. But the point was, the slicer beam is the only weapon on a shadow cruiser. The good news is it can pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the damage, huge range of damage. It can fire every turn for less damage than that, but fully charged, as you say, it's got a very good chance of just one-shotting everything. It does
Yeah.
15-point rakes, it ignores armor, people can't intercept it, it's got very generous fire control. This thing,
Well, most people can't intercept it.
most people can't intercept. Is this about the Grom?
Yes.
Okay. There are certain niche systems, such as the Grom flat cannon, that can intercept. Not that I think the Shadows have much to fear from the Grom autocracy, to,
No, they don't.
to give them their Sunday name. Uh, so yeah, generally unacceptable as a lot of sort of laser weapons are. The only thing I would say, and I say this about a lot of these big weapons, is the damage range is huge. It's over
Yeah.
154 points of damage range. So yeah, 196 is a good day, and not much is going to survive that. But
But 42 is a
actually,
lot.
yeah, you could roll 42. It's well within reason that you could. On average, it's probably more like sort of 100 in the low hundreds that you're gonna do,
Yeah.
which will still kill a lot of things. But might not take that Bintac out in one shot. So
Right. Well, it's also still raking in this case too. It doesn't have the benefit of other versions of the weapon.
yeah, yeah, but I think the 15 points, so instead of 10 points per rake, 15 point per rakes does help sort of
It does.
deal with a lot of the normal issues that you might see where raking damage spreads its damage too much. And ignoring armor as well. So, one of the things that makes raking damages weaker is like if they rake across a couple of systems, armor might be applied twice.
Right.
So like you rake a twin array and then you move on to structure. The structure damage just basically the armor takes. You only rake off the armor. The point is that that's not a issue for the slicer because it's ignoring armor 99% of the time anyway.
Yeah, it completely disrupts things at the molecular level.
Yeah. So, but it also has a couple of other neat abilities. So one of the things is it doesn't have to target one ship. So I don't want to turn this into a tutorial video, but this is kind of important to see.
Well, they have unique systems, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
important part of that.
So this beam can, if I target that asteroid, I then have 16 dice, d10 dice that I can allocate. If I wanted, I could do 8 there. And we're still selected, so we can do another shot of this handily placed asteroid there. And then if we look, we can see that that is going to fire a shot at both those. Asteroids are very easy to hit. And you can see, I think, here. No, it doesn't. Oh, yeah, other 10%. Because you get like a 5%
Yeah, decrease between
decrease
shots.
for every shot after the first.
Right.
Doesn't look like it shows up
Which
in the tooltip, but hey
which
ho.
does make it problematic when you're trying to target fighters.
Yeah, I mean it can do. If you were, I don't have any fighters to target here, wah. But if you can also blat them completely out the sky. Because if you think about it, if you've got 16 dice and you put 12 shots or 8 shots at 2 dice each, you probably still got a good chance because you only need probably one or two dice to take a fighter out, even a heavier fighter. So you
True.
can. And its fire control is good against fighters, especially with its range penalty. But I wouldn't say that that's generally a good strategy to use it that way.
No, it's definitely not. It's not its strength.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you do if you don't have any other options. I think many ancients certainly, apart from maybe the Mind Riders, do struggle against fighters,
Mhm.
especially swarms of younger race fighters. It's one of the
Yeah, definitely.
imbalances. I think maybe that's because ancients are balanced against each other, and other ancient factions or ancient factions just don't tend to bring that many fighters. So it's the swarm is less of an issue because their fighters are really expensive.
Right. I mean, the
The
shadow fighters are good against other fighters, but
Yeah, I do want to talk about that because I'm not sure. I'm not sure I get the best out of Shadowfighters. But just while we're still in the slicer, the other thing you can do is set dice, d10 dice to intercept. So you can see that I've done 2 defensive dice there. Each defensive dice is intercept -10. So you can if you have more damage than you need to kill whatever targets you're having, then you might as well use and you're expecting incoming fire. You might as well put some dice into defense, and so it's an incredibly versatile weapon because it can destroy something, destroy a ship, destroy some fighters, and defend itself all in a single firing phase.
and if I recall correctly, now this could be me remembering it from the tabletop, but
Mm.
if it tries to intercept a ballistic weapon, doesn't it automatically count as intercepted?
That is an optional rule for all ancients.
Okay.
And because it's an optional rule, I think there's another optional rule around sensors that's not in Fiery Void. No.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was the high level ancient thing or not. So
I think it was probably AOG's attempt to address some of the criticism, possibly, of ancient factions not feeling too powerful enough. And they said, like, look, if you want them to be more like they appear in the show, here's a couple of extra optional rules to
that
address.
sounds right.
I think. Someone else can correct me on that. So any other words on the slicer?
Other than the fact that it's scary, no.
No, it is incredibly scary. The other thing I want to show while we're here is a new system, technically a weapon, called the fighter bomb. Now, the recent Hangar Operations update sort of finally made its way to Shadows, which have a very interesting system. And if you hover over their hangar, you can see that there's 6 integrated fighters that I've had to purchase as an enhancement when I bought all these ships. The fighter bomb can actually yeet these up to 10 hexes during the firing phase, and
And I've
effectively,
actually gotten to use that recently. It's actually very nice.
it's fun, isn't it? It is
It
fun.
is. Well, the funny thing about it, I didn't notice this because when doing carrier operations with other races, you get a penalty, an initiative penalty
Mhm.
with the CNC. But I noticed you don't get that with the Shadows when they do it, but the Vorlons do when they launch fighters.
Yeah, because Vorlons are launching fighters in a more normal way, whereas the fighter bomb, and actually this was something I'd kind of scratched my head around a bit about, like should they get a launch penalty? But it's a different form of launching, and there's nothing to say that they did. What does happen, and is quite interesting about once you launch your fighters, is they can be reabsorbed back into the shadow vessel, and this
Now,
is a
that's not something I've done.
what's that?
I have not done that.
No, but you can. So if your fighters take damage and their diffusers are a bit screwed and their health's a bit screwed, you can bring them back to the cruiser and dock them normally. And actually, that does follow the normal docking procedure. So you get an initiative penalty on the cruiser or carrier the
I mean, that
following
makes
turn.
sense.
But at the end, they can be launched again out the fighter bomb, at which point they will be fully healed. And that
That's
is
nice to
it's
know.
an incredibly strong ability, and I'm keen to see how this feels for Shadows. There is one catch, though, that when you reabsorb the fighters, all the damage to all the diffusers and all the actual fighters in the flight is put into sort of a single value, and then uh, it hits one of your strongest diffusers during the moment of docking. So,
Which this seems like a perfect segue to talk about the diffusers.
correct, correct. So, if you dock fighters with 30 damage, and we are looking at the diffusers here, and your diffusers were healthy, not a problem. The diffuser would absorb them all as if you'd just been hit by 30 points of damage. Um, because, do you want to explain diffusers? I feel I'm doing
Yeah.
this in the wrong order.
Well, one of the things to talk about with the diffusers is the diffuser is a damage mitigation system that the shadows use.
Mm,
And that's what part of their unique structure is about. Those tendrils that you see on the ships that kind of sprawl out from the central ship are part of the energy diffuser system. Each diffuser can diffuse a certain amount of damage each turn, and each tendril can absorb a certain amount of damage. So any damage done to the shadow vessel will be mitigated by armor, and then after it's mitigated by armor, it then can be absorbed into a tendril.
mm,
Now, at the end of the turn, if they sorry, at the end of the turn, the diffuser can then bleed that damage off into space up to a certain amount. In each case, you see we have two diffusers there, one for each side of the ship, and those diffusers can actually let go of 15 damage per turn. So this allows the shadow ships, especially if they can avoid being hit for a turn or two, to be extraordinarily durable. It's one of the reasons why they're so hard to kill. In fact, you kind of see this effect in the show. Well, at least that you can retroactively justify the effect of the show.
unless
When you,
Sheridan's on the other ship, then
well, yeah, because then he's just going to nuke them anyway.
he's gonna do some dickhead thing.
Right. But when you see a ship hitting a shadow vessel, you'll start seeing it. You can see the energy kind of flowing through it. It's flowing it to the outer side where those tendrils are. So it bleeds it off into space harmlessly, which makes them very hard to kill.
Yeah, yeah. Another fantastic example, actually, of AOG looking at what was on the screen and making a really cool game mechanic out of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, so a few things on this. The diffuse, you're only bleeding 15 per side each turn, which actually isn't that much under sustained fire. But there's a couple of things you can do to improve your survivability. One is make sure you get hit on both sides if you are going to take fire. So sometimes just center lining a ship so that they are having to shoot you from dead center or dead from the rear means that you're using your entire diffuser capacity because both sides of your tendrils will be in arc, and then you will bleed 30 damage instead of just taking all the hits on one side and only bleeding away 15. So that can keep you alive a lot longer. The other thing is just to make sure that you are not presenting the same side every turn to wherever you're getting shot from.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference when you can do that. However, when enough of your thrusters are damaged and you have an entire fleet pointing at your dreadnought, that can make it
I
harder
mean,
to
if your
turn
thrusters
on
are
sides.
taking damage, I mean, like you probably already screwed it up, right? Because this is the thing, like the Shadow Vessel won't take any damage so long as it's got diffusers that can deal with the incoming damage. Now, there is a sort of other caveat to that, like big, really big hitting weapons, so weapons that do more than 30 or maybe more than 20 or 10. The diffuser tendril can only absorb up to its maximum capacity per shot. And so the game will always try and find what is the most optimal tendril to absorb an incoming shot. But eventually you do kind of like run out of tendrils or run out of tendril capacity. So once these bigger tendrils are down, yeah, the tendrils only maybe taking 10 damage from an incoming shot. And you do start to take damage on the hull, which is really bad for Shadows because they've got this little guy, the pilot.
Yeah, they got Anna Sheridan right there.
Well, maybe, could be. It's hard to tell from the picture, you know.
It looks just
Uh,
like her.
yeah, don't hear John try to hear you say that. Um, right. So, but the reason is once you start taking damage, the pilot feels pain.
Right.
And pain is like a temporary crit the following turn, which reduces your initiative, thrust, and your accuracy, which means that your vessel, your supreme ancient vessel, starts to feel a bit sluggish, a bit slow, can't get away from that the next turn's fire and isn't shooting back as much. So often you will need to scramble and hide at that point. Uh,
Yes. And actually, real quick to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about here,
yeah.
one of the big differences in the shadow ships compared to other ships is the shadows don't have a crew on their ship. They have a single pilot that is bonded with the ship. So they don't have a normal CNC, they have a pilot instead.
Yeah,
Hence the feeling the pain.
indeed. I've just sort of quickly moved us on to the movement phase actually because there's I want to talk about biothrusters and I want to talk about half phasing, which I think is not actually that well understood. Although I've seen a lot of chat in Discord suddenly about it, but so
Yeah, it just came up recently.
yeah, maybe that's changing. Biothrusters, the shadows don't have port, starboard, aft, or front thrusters. They just have a single thruster that can go in any direction at all. And they also have quite a lot of them. So
They do.
6 thrusters. So that makes them. You can't really take away a shadow vessel's maneuverability. I don't think I've ever killed a shadow vessel because it just couldn't maneuver. It's yeah.
Actually, you did.
Did I?
Yeah, that primordial
Oh
dreadnought.
yeah. But no, but that was
I could
no.
you
That was because your pilot kept having such a bad headache.
Oh, okay. Because like I couldn't half phase because you destroyed enough of my thrusters.
Yeah, because you lost thrust because of the pain
Oh,
criticals. Like, I mean, yeah, I think your thrusters were kind of in bad shape as well.
I lost half of them.
Well, you still had the other half. Point is, you didn't have any thrust, but also I think when they take damage, yeah, they do reduce thrust as well. I think they might have a special critical. So I think it was a combination of both the pilot and the
Right.
thrusters. Um, good point. Good point. Also, because I moved things on, you can see these happy little guys have now launched, so that's fun. So yeah, but they don't suffer from like getting a port or starboard thruster shot off in the way that Vorlons still can, for example.
True. Yeah, because you can't target single systems on shadow ships because of their unique design.
Yeah, exactly. Because unlike capital ships, they don't have all the exterior hulls. They just have a single central hull plus these tendrils. The next, oh yeah, half phasing. So the shadows have this unique movement icon, which looks like a green shadow vessel. Uh, if you click on that, and then it will auto assign thrust. So it costs 6 thrust, which I can't for the life of me remember the actual calculation, but it's
I think
rough.
it's half your total. I think it's half your total thrust, isn't it?
Is it? How much is it for this guy? No, it's 6 here as well.
Oh,
It may be related to. Oh, I've no idea, but it's 6 thrust, right? Um, once you're half faced, like, oh no, I remember reading this and I cannot for the life recall, and I'm not going to re-record the whole video just because I screwed that up. Um, you will see in the tooltip it says half phased. I should maybe color that purple actually. That might be a nice effect. And the firing modifier is -50. Again, maybe I should make that clear. It's the shadow vessel shooting someone else will get -50% to hit because it's half
right.
phased. So it makes your offense capability much smaller. But you want to do the next bit?
It also makes you a lot harder to hit
Yes.
because you're only partially in reality. Now, one of the things about it though is if someone gets a good hit on your phasing drive when you've done that, if somehow they manage to hit you, you explode.
Yes, you do. Which was the chat in Discord, wasn't it? To be clear, the only being partially in reality is good for -20% chance to be hit, and I think that's doubled for ballistics fired at you as well. So if you suddenly have a ton of missiles firing at you and you're like, do you know what, I don't really need to shoot anyone this turn, half phasing to get away from those ballistics is a good move. But
Also gives you a chance to charge up your molecular slicer.
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because like, although you can fire 1 turn, 2 turns, it's not nearly as strong as saving up to. And actually, this gets me to like a broader point about the shadow. They're not brawlers. The Vorlons can brawl. The Mind Riders will win almost every brawl they go into. The shadows can't. They are hit and fade, and so you have to have a certain amount of patience with them to wait for the right
Yeah,
time. Otherwise, you are not going to enjoy yourself.
yeah. I've learned that lesson a few times. Thinking, oh well, they're the ancients. They can, they can just, bully their way through a younger race fleet, only to get overwhelmed and die at close range.
Yeah, I mean they're maybe not that different in playstyle from the Torvalis in the sense of you're not necessarily going to be firing every turn.
Right.
You want to do some damage, get out there, do some damage, and so the half phase is incredibly useful. Again, especially if your opponent gets frustrated and launches lots of missiles at you, you're just like, hey, cheerio.
Yeah.
Um,
Personally,
uh,
I'd
uh,
rather have a shading field, but
I mean, I think it is a stronger mechanic for sure. Do you know, I've never played Travalis against the Travalis with shadows. I do wonder. We should maybe do that.
well, I'll say if you recall, one of our shadow players did do that one time, and he got mad because he couldn't hit my dark knife at point blank range.
Well, there should be a way of hitting at point blank range, but I don't know all the I don't know all the details of that. Right, but so that's half phasing, and it's situational, but it is incredibly useful, and it's worth remembering that they have that ability. Um, I don't know. There's a bit of background noise on your end from people talking.
Oh, sorry, I'll mute myself for a minute.
Yeah, no worries. Uh, so I can't think of any other main mechanics that we need to cover, and we've covered like a ton of them just on this one ship. But if that's the standard cruiser, maybe let's look at some of the other ships.
Yeah, do you want to go up or you want to go down?
Let's go down. Sorry, I could hear a really loud voice. Right, so let's look at the carrier. And this basically is a cruiser in everything except the fact it can carry lots more fighters. So cruiser can take 6. This can take 24. And it also has it has more hull as well. I'm gonna have to check the stats on these things. Um, and
Are
one
you
of the
still
reasons,
getting the background?
Yeah, one of the reasons for it having more hull is the fighters, because they spawn from the vessel itself, they actually are 1 point of structure per fighter. And when you launch it, it doesn't immediately change, I don't think. But what does happen is if these fighters die, then a structure box is removed from that. So it's a really funny thing, actually. And it says this in the AOG books. Like, you can, if a cruiser only had like 1 or 2 health left and had fighters roaming around, you could actually destroy the cruiser by destroying the fighters. It's a very strange mechanic.
Yeah, I never actually came across that. But then again, on tabletop, we didn't use fighters very frequently.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing to note about the fighters actually is launched ones have better stats than if you buy the uncontrolled ones. They have 10 extra offensive bonus and they have 25 better initiative. And that's because Shadow Fighters should be bought with the ships. So if you can take the autonomous fighters, but you're paying the same amount of money for less stats.
Yeah, I've learned that one the hard way.
Let's go up. Let's go to the Dreadnought then. You like this?
Oh, I do like that ship because it actually allows me not only to have my two slicers, but it also allows me to shut down two vortex disruptors and boost my sensors.
Yeah, and this is the difference. It has two of these, so it's 16 power, which is enough to get you an extra point. And that's all you're ever going to do with them, to be honest. So this one's
Pretty
scanners
much.
basically 15 for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
It's got bigger tendrils, more tendrils, better diffuser capacity. It's a bit sluggish in terms of turn cost, actually, and that's something you see with Shadow Vessels. Their turn cost is actually quite high for for an ancient ship, but their turn delay is really low. So they still, in one way, feel very maneuverable, but they're quite thrust hungry.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, they feel great, but that's also because I'm used to, trying to get a paragon to turn, which is usually like
Oh yeah,
every
yeah,
other turn.
yeah. I mean, so what it amounts to is you can probably make about 2 quick turns,
Yeah.
but you couldn't make like 3 or 4 turns. But you could, as I say, make two very quick scoot around ones, which is quite useful for suddenly going a different direction from where your opponent thought you were going to go.
Yeah.
The Dreadnought also benefits from having two slicer beams. Arcs are all right, although they are split arcs and also no coverage from the rear, and that's a feature of all the shadow vessels that look like spiders, more or less. Don't have any rear weaponry. In fact,
Which
they actually have pretty unforgiving arcs in terms of light ships getting behind you.
which is very much is something that you can really take advantage of if you've got lots of fighters, because you just get behind them and pound them.
Yeah, and white stars too. Luckily, the spider vessels, whatever you call them, battle crabs, was that the name for them?
People call them battle crabs. I never liked that phrase, but it is what people call them.
Yeah, I don't really get it. They're not very crustacean-y, in my mind.
Hmm.
But hey ho, because they actually have they have no heavy combat vessels, unless I'm wrong about that, but they have excellent medium ship here.
Oh yeah, that
So
destroyer can do some damage.
yeah, tell us about it.
So this destroyer has what are called heavy phasing pulse cannons. So they actually have an 18 point damage per hit, and they're basically like a heavy pulse cannon, but they also have the ability to ignore shields. Well, outside of the Vorlons anyway. So if
Mm.
anyone has anything, even the damage mitigation of shields can be ignored by this thing, which is very nice. And which actually does remind me, one of the things that the sensors on an ancient vessel can do is ignore any kind of masking. So not just the jammer, but even the E-web doesn't do anything against advanced sensors. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
but this pulse cannon, fantastic, amazing, and it can tear things apart when you get a good hit with it.
I
But
always
I think
miss
the
with it though. I always miss with. I'm currently in a game against the third space custom faction. I'm missing everything.
Oof, good luck with that.
I mean, it's fire control should mean that I don't miss, but that's just not the case. Next we have the
Well,
Sorry.
they're small little crafter nightmare.
Uh, I thought I have reasonable hit chances. I just always miss. Uh, so multi phase cutter. That's not a slight on heavy phasing pulse cannon. That is
No, it's a good gun.
that is rage against my own luck. So multi-phase cutter. This is probably Shadow's only proper anti-fighter weapon, but it's more than
Oh,
that, I think.
it's a good anti-fighter weapon.
Mm,
It's a very good anti-fighter weapon. It fires 3 times in a turn. You can fire at different targets,
yeah.
and you got 2 of them. So
Uh,
that's
yeah. But again, split arcs. Although you can sort of center line and aft line them, I guess. The I always feel it is excellent. This weapon, no doubt about it. I always feel it underperforms a little bit just because of the swingy damage. But
yeah.
again, that could be my luck.
That's
30.
all shadow weapons, really.
Yeah, I mean, true enough. Actually, a lot of ancient weapons, which is kind of odd. Like they have a very high ceiling, but they also have a very low basement.
It's true.
If you look at like
Unless you,
the you know,
unless you're a miner.
uh, talking over each other. Unless we, if you look at the telekinetic cutter on the Mine Riders, for example, it's like 4 to 40
True.
because it's just 4d10. This is 30 fire control against fighters, which is not exceptional by itself, but the range penalty is 2.5 per hex. So this thing can hit fighters miles and miles away, and is actually something you can do is instead of using close combat EW for sort of any fighters within 10 hexes, you can use like an actual lock on a fighter unit and hit them from over 10 hexes away. I would think.
I've never tried that. I probably should sometime.
Well, think about 10 hexes. Like the fire control would cover uh 12 hexes of range penalty if you do that,
It's true.
and you would still have the baseline to hit it, and plus the OEW itself. So even one point. I mean, I wouldn't say I've done it a lot, but it's certainly a lot more possible with that range penalty.
Yeah, it would also make them more. I think it would definitely make them more useful too, considering all the EW you get and shit like that.
Yeah, we've got a couple of variants for the destroyer. So the phasing pulse cannon on the scout, which I think is just a sort of scaled down version of the heavy phase.
Yeah, the heavy
Yeah,
does 18, did 13.
yeah, but it's otherwise basically the same.
Yep.
Scout 15, excellent numbers on the ELINT scanner. Also having a scout that is this maneuverable, so it's got 0.33 cost, 0.25 turn delay. It's probably one of the most maneuverable ships in the whole game.
Yeah,
Uh,
it can get away if it wants to.
yeah, but I don't think I've ever taken the scout. Actually, I've taken.
I have, but only because it was during when everybody was testing out the Torvalis, and
Right.
so I was using it to try to detect them.
Yeah. Um. Right. And yeah, I think I've taken the Vorlon scout, and I find that that's not that much different from maybe like what their destroyers. But this one, I just don't really see the point. I don't. I think it's probably more expensive than the actual destroyer, and I'm just always slightly. I'm just always
Yeah,
going
it's
to
like
choose a destroyer.
yeah. Now the Strike Destroyer is interesting. It's definitely more of a ship killer than the standard destroyer is, with those 2 light slicers.
Yeah. I when I Shadows first arrived in Fiery Void, I thought this was the better choice. I take this quite a lot. These 2 light slicer beams. Um, and I caught up a Charlene with this actually, and I thought it was great. But I wasn't really using it. I was basically firing them every turn, which isn't. It's like I think it's like 4 to 40 damage or something like that if you fire them every turn. And eventually, I mean, the Charlene couldn't do anything because once you'd blown off enough fusion cannons, it couldn't actually hit this thing because I could just always dance around it. So I like this. I don't know if it's actually good. And it doesn't have the multi-phased cutters, which when you have so little anti-fighter weaponry is probably a big disadvantage.
Yeah, I really feel like this is one of those situations where it's there, but I don't see the value of it unless I'm needing it for the points. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure it's more expensive than the patrol cruiser is, and the patrol cruiser only
Yes,
has one of those.
true, true. But often when doing fleet selection, you get yourself boxed into a corner where you only have about 1,000 points left. So I have sometimes taken the patrol cruiser, which we can just look at, also as a light slicer beam, as you say. And it's basically just a really sort of scaled down version of the cruiser, but much cheaper at 950.
Yeah, if you're filling out a fleet, patrol cruiser is great for that.
Yeah, and then the fighters. So these ones, they come with a polarity cannon, for which they're damage wise 4 to 14, which is quite good. Three shots per cannon, when they've 2 turns charged, or only 2 shots per cannon when it's only 1 turn charged. Um,
Either way, they could do some damage.
I think I generally use them to clear fighters and then think about using them against ships.
Yeah, I think that's the best course of action, considering the fact that your big ships don't have any ability to really defend themselves against fighters effectively.
Yeah, and they are excellent for that. I mean, they have not that one, but they have a really good initiative. 15 thrust. You can cruise around at speed 15 with these, which is also a good advantage. Their armor's on point, 433. The profiles aren't that large at all, 35, 35. That's okay. And they have a slight advantage in terms of they've tiny little diffusers of their own, which can absorb 3 damage on either side. Or is it just, does it matter the sides with them? Do you know?
I don't think it does matter what sides because they don't really have a an angle to hit them at. There's just one
Yeah,
side.
maybe it doesn't. I mean, I don't see arcs listed on the tooltips like I think you
Right.
see. Oh no, they don't have either. Potentially, the arcs matter. So there you go. What one educational video. This is maybe true.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we don't really know what this does.
I, yeah, it's somewhere in the code, and no, I'm not going to look it up just now. But the diffuser also bleeds 1 point of damage away as well. They're certainly not as tough as maybe Vorlon fighters or other fighters, but they're a little bit cheaper. I think I think they are actually one of the strengths of the Shadows. I think they're really good, but they don't maybe hit as hard as other ancient fighters. And so they fall more into that sort of interceptor role, like I say.
Right. But with but with the molecular slicer, you don't really need to hit that hard because
That's
all you got
true,
to do is
huh?
hit the fighters and the HCVs
Uh,
or MCVs.
yeah, and I think I find that like the whole hit and fade philosophy, I get that for the ships, but I actually struggled to do it with these guys, which is weird because I'm a Tarata player and their fighters have exactly the same sort of accelerator trade off, where you have to charge it for 2 turns to get a really good shot. But for these guys, I just find that there's always somewhere I want to fly them, or some other fighters that I want to intercept, and I just accept that I'm only going to fire 2 shots per gun. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Right. So that is modern day shadows. We also have this kind of like other set of basically similar ships, but these come from primordial times. So these
Yes.
were yeah, tell us about these.
So the primordial ships are the ships that were that the shadows used back when all of the ancients were still around. And not just that, this is when they piloted their own ships. So they didn't use a servant race, they didn't use someone else for that. They themselves are inside these ships. And that's one of the reasons why they're so much more powerful. They have better power generation, they have better weapons, they have better tendrils. So they have more tendrils, they have better diffuser capability, they have better self repair.
Mm.
They're basically better in every way except point cost.
Yeah. Well, they're higher in points cost. But if we take the cruiser for example, and if the diffusers actually bleed the same amount, but the diffusers are bigger and there's more of them. So this thing is much more survivable. It also, this slicer beam becomes a heavy slicer beam, and you can see the big difference in damage
Oh
there.
yes.
However, that comes with a caveat.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, its fire control is a little bit worse, but you can only fire it in piercing mode at that strength. Uh,
Correct.
I'm just
Now against a capital ship, though, when you're firing it in piercing mode, that's really good.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because the important thing about, like, so one of the things with piercing damage, and there's a recent discussion about this as well, is that normally there's no overkill. So you just, if you hit structure or CNC or a reactor, you're laughing. But if you hit the hangar or jump engine, then it feels like a waste when your shot
Right.
travels through the primary section. Or you could spend 80 damage destroying a twin array.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this does overkill, unlike other piercing weapons. So that means that your damage is always going to go somewhere on it, and that makes it incredibly effective. So while we said like the normal slicer gun could annihilate a ship in one shot on usually or on a good day, this almost definitely will.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had one of these almost completely gut a Vorlon dreadnought in one shot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What you should do is because like the piercing damage, you divide it by the number of sections it's traveling through, and then that is a standard damage hit.
Yeah.
So
That
it's
ignores armor.
which is incredibly effective against Forlans,
Yeah.
because um, the way, yeah, that ignores armor as well. So incredibly powerful. It does have raking mode as well, which actually it isn't much stronger, but this will be like also your 2 turn recharge damage. So it's, while the damage might seem a little bit slightly smaller than the normal slicer, this you could fire every 2 turns as well. So if you didn't want to wait 3 turns for the piercing shot, you could wait 2 turns and you still got a very good option here.
Absolutely great. Yeah. I love this thing.
Yeah, absolute.
And of
Um,
course, the Primordial Dreadnought is just the same thing, but more.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's got 2 heavy slicer beams and better tendrils than that. The more interesting one, you got Primordial Cruiser as well. That's light slicer beam becomes a normal slicer beam, so that's which is actually quite a big upgrade as well in many ways.
Yeah, it's
But
but
the
yeah, here's the big one.
here's the guy. So this one, this was a nightmare to code, but he has a heavy slicer beam that has split arcs, which was a really interesting challenge. Because basically it's the same gun, but it can fire, as you can see, forward or back, which, given the Shadow's propensity for splitting shots, means that I could do, I don't know, 10 there, but then I could go behind me and do another 8. And then, because I've still got, I made dice, I've still got 6 dice, just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom. It's covering a lot of bases again, this one.
Yeah.
So it's very, very cool. Something I should mention, but you can actually see in the damage, is every dice that you spend on defense obviously is 1 less dice for your overall damage. So you can see that actually goes down to give you an idea of what your actual damage output is after defensive dice. Have you used
Yeah,
this?
I have. I've used it a few times. It's extremely potent. I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, it has 2 vortex disruptors, which means you can still boost your sensors. But one of the nice things is about this is not only does it have more tendrils and better tendrils, it also has multiple diffusers. So this thing can bleed off a lot more damage every turn than any other ship.
Hmm.
And it's got tons of self repair by Shadow standards.
Yeah, I mean, there's only still 12 in there total.
Right. But
And
it's more than 2 or 4.
yeah, I think there is an advantage from, like, the Vorlons will have like a single self repair. Typically, Mind Riders not so much, but I think there probably is an advantage in having multiple ones.
Mhm.
Uh,
I mean, if
Probably.
your self repair gets damaged, you can use other self repair to fix that self repair.
Yeah, yeah, you can these days. You've got a lot of control over self repair actually these days,
Yeah.
which makes it very versatile. So yeah, yeah, I would. yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Um, anything else to really say about this other than it's I haven't actually counted these up, and I'm not going to right now. But it looks to me like in the region of 200 maybe.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Maybe
It's a
more.
beast.
Absolutely, I've never used it. I think I might have fought it once. I can't even remember how it went though. So yeah, but it is by far and away the most powerful vessel in the Shadow Armada. I think
Oh, yeah.
yeah, seven. Oh, that's because I took fighters with it. It's about 5,000 points, I think.
Mhm. Oh, and I didn't realize how many fighters is this thing? It comes with 24 fighters.
It can take up to 24, yeah.
My gosh,
But
it's basically a extra dangerous carrier too.
yeah, yeah, and it can launch 12, I think, per turn. From memory. Oh no, it can launch 24. Actually, yeah, I think it can launch all 24 in a single turn, albeit at
Oof.
the same hex right now. Hmm.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, but you got to get them out somehow, right?
That's true.
God, that's
Yeah.
about the third thing I've written down to check, by the way, over the course of this video. Oh, I'm,
Promise, folks, we were prepared for this.
I wasn't. Right. I think I think we've covered it though. Like I think people will have a
Yeah.
flavor of who the shadows are, what the hell they've got, and how they play. So let's just quickly summarize. Actually, that is my summary. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, not really. I mean, they're fun to play as. They're scary to face because when you see them in a match against you, it can be terrifying. Um, and speaking as the person that gets to control them currently in the campaign that they're running, I get to be the
Oh
I get
right,
to be
yeah.
Mr. Gordon. Yeah, that's why I was saying you absolutely, except Doug here just completely destroyed entire Shadow Fleet along with a Primordial Dreadnought. Thank you very much.
Uh,
Um, yeah,
y-
it's
y-
they're a lot of fun, but and when you hit, oh my gosh! But I will say that match in particular was a textbook example of the Shadow's inability to handle lots of targets at once because you had a ton of ships, you had a ton of fighters, and I was trying to focus on the Starbase, and in the process, I ended up getting swarmed by everything else.
yeah. I was so pleased with how that went because I had a lot of fighters, which for the Terra, who I was playing,
Yeah,
is a huge uh, it was the most effective thing I had. I had a bunch of OSATs, had a few mines in the base, but I knew if I gave you a good shot in the base, then it could be curtains very early. So I just made sure you couldn't, and then hope
yeah.
for the best because I did not have an actual fleet. I had a few medium ships, but you had a
But you had
lot
so
of
many
different
of
things
them.
to worry about, and when the time came, I managed to get a good shot with the fires.
Yeah, in retrospect, I really should have brought more of the destroyers and hunter destroyers that they had for that match than I did.
Maybe, maybe.
But
I didn't think the
biggest thing was
dreadnought was a bad choice
I
initially.
wanted to have the moment like you see in the first season where the shadow vessel appears out of nowhere and completely shreds the starbase.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that.
No, it does. But you got a good story out of it, so it ain't all bad. Right. Let's bring this to a close. As ever,
Sounds good to me.
it doesn't matter how small the actual fleet size is. I always end up managing to talk about the same length of time. But that's hopefully a good thing. So hope you've enjoyed learning a bit more about the shadows. I'll just say goodbye.
It's been a pleasure, folks. I'll see you when we talk about who you can't see.
That pause before you said it's been a pleasure makes me wonder just how much of a pleasure it was. But on that note, see you later, folks.
Later.